last week we did no demos, and Mike had topics. I don't remember which one, but I think we had to cut it short. Today I will write down the topic that Mike suggests. Demos we have.
Chris, would you like to go first?
Yeah.
No.
I would like to start.
What?
How could I know that Christian has a demo?
No idea.
Topics. We have topics. Might easier. We'll see.
And I would also have a demo.
Yeah, so
security scanning.
Okay.
I might have a demo at the end. I might, but leave me at the end in case.
Status. Okay, one. 28, nothing. I should call 28. 28. Why did I say 2 weeks? It's 1 week. No, I just missed the triage. Yeah, I'm meeting a triage, but last week we did well. Okay, so just 1 week. I think it was 2 weeks. Okay, so 28, this one. Media dependency on SEO and the media dependency. Fine. Remove a double scroll in the notification item. I hate double scroll. So let's hack the CSS here. Okay, and take phone multi-targeting 5 lots. This one took me so long, or just nothing. Well, nothing. Not much changes, just removing that thing that is only was the issue. And for something that is already defined. .NET, and that we are not using anymore. And I still don't have a good answer to that. So right now the conclusion is that when you build Orchard, it will copy the localization files twice, because it's either that or they are not copied sometimes. So I prefer to copy them twice than sometimes not copying them. Because when you have a multi-target project like we do, well, right now it's just .NET 8, but if it's using target frameworks, then there will be 3 builds. Well, one common build that specifies a target framework without the S, that is empty. Yeah, this one will be empty. Then there is one build per framework that is defined in the variable for each of the targeted frameworks. And what we want to do is do something once, whatever the number of builds there are, which is copying the files, but there is no target to do that. So still investigating with some people from MSB, but I'm waiting for answers. It's not obvious, even though the problem seems obvious. And what was happening is that this is why we had a -f, not 80, because this is why, I mean, without that, because of this, if you were to build Orchard that targeted multiple TFNs, then you will have file logs. concurrency issues between file generation, file copying. And this is why we believe that we had specifically targeted things. Even when we had multiple targets like net 7, net 6, we will do one target at a time to prevent multiple targets in parallel from building and generating the same files. So now it's fixed, it works. And I believe, is there a .NET conference today? Is there a .NET conference today?
Why do you see a disturbance in GitHub?
Excuse me, I didn't get you.
Do you feel a disturbance in GitHub?
Why?
Yeah, that's why I'm asking. Do you have you seen? Oh, like a .NET Conf, not just any .NET conference or .NET Conf. Okay.
Oh, Microsoft conference. Microsoft Tenants, maybe. Where is the .NET conference? October, I don't know. So I won't say anything. Oh, completed. No, midnight. I think there is one, right on each one. So we'll see next week. Done. Let's read into that. So this one, extend button style. So style for the button. Primary. Okay. And in helpful methods, ContentPart, ContentType papers. What Mike calls helpful, I call loaded, but that's okay. It's just a point of view. This field, async. So that's calling one without the argument. Which one? Trying to get the difference here. I'm not saying it, it's not obvious to me. Mike, what's the difference between this one and this one? Confused.
There is, what's the difference?
Oh, there's a type here.
Yeah, the type, one for the part and one for the field.
Okay.
Oh no, both for.
No, there was no type here, so we just define the thing, and then we type a type. So where is the type used? Because if the type is not used, okay, of type field, and before.
Yeah, before there is no type, you can't specify it.
And what is the thing here? Configurations field dot of type. What does field dot of type do that side?
Of type, we're supposed to provide something like text field or numeric field. Text.
But what does it do? Type. What is this field doing in the end?
It defines the type of the field.
Okay. I see. I think I see. So because you were supposed to. Oh, I see. So you are supposed to call it, and now you say, okay, if I provide you with the type, then you don't have to call of.
Correct. And if you don't provide it, you're going to get an exception. So.
Okay. It's useful. It's helpful.
Oh, see, you agree. It's helpful. It's not overloaded. Nice.
You say bloated, like bloated code. Yeah. Try get. Try get. That's also you try get. Okay. Return false. Return true. Okay. Kid services. Oh, we talked about it last week, did we? Yeah, we talked. Oh, why did we talk about it? We had a demo.
We talked about using it with the email, but we don't have support. So that supports it.
It was about Azure communication services.
By Hisham.
And then we related to key services. Okay, so what is this key services now here?
It allows us to use keyed services in Orchard.
Because we could not be, because of the service collection extensions that clone the registration. Now we need to understand that it's a key service. So we need to declare it differently. And I believe Chantieri saw the meeting, and that's why he started with like, hey, what is that? We need to support that. Don't work. Okay.
No, that's because I tried to use it and I noticed an exceptions in Orchard. And submit an issue and he fixed it. Yeah.
It's great. So that's great.
He is great.
That. Yeah. No, that's great. Stop. Okay, well, awesome.
I think there's still a missing piece in the .NET framework around this key services, which to be able to actually get the key, there's no way to get the key right now. I submit a PR. Well, right now, like if I give me all the registered keyed services, along with their key, like the registered key and the type, there's no way of doing it today.
To introspect the service collection?
Yeah, so when you add a keyed service to your container, it tracks the key. So if you ever call it and say, hey, give me the key or give me the service by key, it will give you a service.
Okay.
But you can't say, give me like a read-only dictionary of key and value or something like that. Okay. That's just something isn't provided in .NET. Hopefully they'll add it.
But you mean in the service collection, not in the container? Because once it's in the container, then you can resolve the key. You don't need to list.
Correct, but there's no way of saying, hey, resolve something like a dictionary of the key and the services. There's no way of doing that.
Why would you want that?
Well, if you want to put, let's say you want to list an option on your UI, on any UI, that say, which is the default service you want to use, right? You would want to know the key, so that way, if you ever want to, return the default instance, you can return it by its key.
Yeah, you can share the issue if you want. So
I actually reported one in the .NET, and then I added one in our repository, and I provided a PR. I just don't know if the PR is good enough. Maybe if we have time, you can look at it and provide some feedback on if it's a good idea or not.
Key services support. That's great. And you notice that there is not a single test to ensure it's working, right? But we'll trust Chantieri.
Well, no, because I tested it.
Yeah, sure, but there is no.
There's no.
So if it's broken, it's broken. Like.
Correct.
Because I'm sure we have tons of tests already that will be able to be used. Properly align content items in the center. Why shortcut migration? Shortcut migration. Yeah, because there is no initial migration record. That's something that's missing in migration. The two. Yeah, maybe we should have some other method to do that, like installing async, something, I don't know, whatever, something that is called when there is a migration by the migrator logic. This way you can intercept the method and say, oh, this is apparently the first time this is even running. There is not a single migration. So you can save a flag and then here say, well, I want to do that. There is not even never run, or I can do that because it never run instead of kind of doing this thing. So maybe we should have a different method to invoke the first time when there is not even a 0 value, but there is no value at all for the current version of the migration. Not help. Or have a flag there when it's invoked with the like, is it new or is it existing or whatever. Instead of doing something like this, so ugly. Minor cleanup. Okay. Okay. Async. Video. I can
This is
smell where
actually
it's going. Yeah.
useful. In the startup file, we currently have configure the pipeline. Now we have configure async. So if you want to run any kind of configure asynchronously, you can. It's kind of useful because in the language or the localization, we had a asynchronous running and blocking the pipeline on every single request because it's configured. Or I think it's on the first request, but because it wasn't asynchronous, now it is asynchronous, so it's useful that way.
Yes, I know. We talked about it. These things are, well, yeah, it's ambiguous because in Orchard it's not the case, but these things are called once when the application starts up by a single thread. There is no 2 requests going in the configure method. There is one, and everyone else is waiting for the app to be configured. Orchard might be different because we can do that dynamically on a tenant initialization, but it should not be a problem because you don't spend thousands of requests initializing tenants at the same time. Maybe you will have one request for one tenant and everyone else will be waiting for the tenant to be initialized by this pipeline because, oh, it's currently initializing, so everyone else is waiting for the tenant to be initialized. It's
I think we call it one time, and then we call it one time in the background tasks, I believe. It's called at least 2 times.
It's in 2 places. Maybe it will never be invoked or invoked once, but yeah.
I think we call it, I think, once per background. I think background task. If the background uses a pipeline, I think it has to be called because it has to configure it manually.
Well, configure is one per tenant done. So you don't call configure in the background all the time. Maybe the code is there, but the background will do it once and done. And then the loop will just say, oh, there is nothing to do, so it's not invoking it. The code is there, but it will be invoked maybe once per tenant, maybe. So not concurrently. And yeah, so I believe it's more like we feel like it's necessary, then it's necessary. What I would like to see is show me the issue before that and show me how it's resolved, how this thing resolved the issue. Even by cheating, like, oh, let's go in a way that it's hard to go, but we want to go there, just to show you that there can be an issue. And then, okay, we see there is an issue. Oh, look at that. Now with this version, there is no more issue. Even if we try hard and we do all the things that are super crazy to get into the issue, look, we don't even have it now anymore. And I believe that's why there is no async in the AspNetConfigure methods.
But in speaking of that, I mean, wouldn't it be useful to have a synchronous configuration? Like in our case, for example, like because if you're configuring the pipeline, you're making at least one request to the database to pull the configuration, for example. So if you have 1,000 tenants, I don't know, someone might, but if you have 1,000 tenants and they're all being initialized around the same time,
yes, you're right.
and you have a single thread, then it will kind of make a a brief.
In this case,
so it might be,
yeah.
I mean, for a multi-tenant app, it might actually be useful even for .NET to have configuration async.
Then that's a good way to prove the point, like. And we've done that many times, like let's create 1,000 tenants on the file system by just creating the JSON document and the folders and start Orchard. And you see that when I have that program that creates 1,000 tenants and then another one that will request each of the tenants just to hydrate them because they are not loaded until you try to reach the endpoint. So I have an app that will call all of them at the same time just to see how it behaves. And then you could try to show that, yeah, this is slow or blocking or whatever, and then use the async one and then show, look at that, it's much better now. It starts faster, or the server is still responsive to the already loaded tenants while it's loading more tenants. So that would be a good way to improve that. Yeah.
I wish we have access to that program because we can run some testing on performance.
It's like 10 lines of console app. Like it's just one. I can try to find it.
Because we also need to use it to test that YesSQL PR that has a lot of asynchronous conversion.
No, it's not the same thing. I'm talking about one that is just a batch file in C# that just creates on the file system in the app data 1,000 folders, each of them being a copy of the default folder. And I call them site 1 to site 1,000. Okay. And I change in the JSON file, I change the name to site 1 from default to site 1 to site 1,000. So it's creating 1,000 tenant folder. That's the first, and then it's done. Okay, now on my file system, I have 1,000 fake tenants, which are a clone of the default tenant. And then I have another console app that is just a loop over HTTP localhost /site1/site2 that invokes the request such that it will load. So that's, yeah, it's just to simulate 1,000 tenants and when they started. That's the only thing. It's not like a benchmark that will run 1,000 requests like per second just to stress test the system. That's different. They are both useful. But here in your case, it's just a configuration. So we want to simulate all these configuration to start at the same time or very close. Okay, so I say there is probably some value in that condition. My concern is that it's diverging from the standard startup files. This is something that is not AspNetCore anymore. This is something special. And by the way, and I believe it was implementing, I think so. Today, you don't have to implement to inherit from startup base or to implement iStartup. because if we see a startup class, we will look for the configure method. So I don't know if this was, if it was changed also in this case, or by reflection. I would think so. Since we did that, so we must have thought about it also. I hope so. It's easy to test. Just change to configure async, returning a value task, and see if that still works without implementing a startup, async startup or startup base. Okay. Async configure option. Now the options button. Log option setup. Async configure option. OpenIddict update. CSS. Boom. Lots of CSS.
Yeah, there's a lot of file changes there. It's like 300 and some files. Everywhere we have a label, we added that class.
And what is it required? Is it better?
Yeah, with the spacing is better, and with Bootstrap, it should be added.
6 layers styling. Lots of styling in this week. Request localization option to tune for user override. Oof, why is that? That is gone. Good. Startup. Maybe that's something you implement. Ignore system settings. Good. Oh, we had something. We did something, but they fixed it in the net. And maybe we find an issue actually. It's possible. Yeah, looks like something new. New. Okay, check out the PR. Update global usings. Oh, for the test. Okay, it's for the test. Okay. But yeah, you remove some usings, but then you have to add some more to prevent ambiguity. Big stock formats. Okay. Not comparison some more. Testing docker be. Does it work now? Or is it I see some comments on the issue.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to the fix that I implemented. I did it in one file, but the problem is what you said was we want it to work for the Docker files without the CI. So I think he's still testing some stuff because it's a workaround just to get it to work, but it's not really a fix.
Yeah, so we can have 2 files now. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing as just passing the image as a parameter and just keep one file. Same logic.
If it's easier. Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
Yeah, but he mentioned he has testing some other stuff as well. So
okay, yeah, that looks promising that you don't have to pass custom thing. That means this thing don't need that, which didn't work. You can just say, okay, this is for Windows or this is the base image, and this one is for Linux, so we don't need. Yeah, so that's it should be better actually. Simpler, straightforward. Okay. Configure startup filters before pipeline. If you will agree, I will trust you both. Email validation. Okay. Good. Demos. Who's starting?
Christian?
Yay, yes. I will share my screen. 1 second. Yeah. So what I would like to talk about is a new model of ours, which is part of our hosting tenants repository. And it's about managing email quotas, which is useful if you have like a SaaS provider, like we have .Nest, and you would like to restrict the number of emails sent out per month per tenant, and only if the tenant uses your SMTP provider. So of course you don't want to restrict those tenants that they are using their own SMTP provider. And for that, we created this module. You can, of course, set the quota from the app settings or environmental variable. And let's see what it does. So I created a test tenant for this and also created 3 workflows that will send out emails. For this tenant, I set the limit to 100, which you also can see in the email settings admin page, that you sent out 0 emails from the total of 100 this month. And this will happen only if you are using the predefined SMTP provider. For this case, we are using, of course, the local one. And what happens if we reach 80%? So I sent out, hopefully I sent out 80 emails. Yes, I did. First of all, the site owners, I need to restart papercut. So the site owners, the users who has a site owner permission, they will receive an email about reaching 80% of the available email quota for this month. This will happen only once per month, so you won't get new emails for every new email after you reach this 80%. But if you send 10 more and you exceed 90%, you will get another email. And what happens also on the admin dashboard is that you will get a warning message on all admin page. So the tenant site will get this message. And if you exceed the total number of emails that you can send out per month, you will see this error message and you won't be able to send out more emails. So you send out 100 emails and you will also get an error message, an error email about this one. I think that's it pretty much. It's a really straightforward module. Do you have any questions?
So is it a module or an extension to an existing module?
This is a separate module,
which requires the SMTP feature.
Yes, the email module. Yeah.
It makes me think about something. So, as the web app maintainer, how do I know how many emails were sent? by an app? It's a trick question. I don't expect you to answer the question.
Yeah, I mean, you can always check the database, but of course that's not pretty straightforward. I mean, you can always check the tenant document table, where you will see how many emails were sent out.
If
exactly
you have your module.
Sorry?
If we have your module.
No, actually, we are restricting this module to be turned on always on all our tenants. So you can also use our.
I mean, I'm not talking about if someone in .NET has your module. I'm talking if anyone in the world uses your module, they can see how many emails are sent. That's what I'm saying. So only if the module is enabled that you can. So, and why I'm talking about it is that, don't you think that, and when I say you, I don't say you, Christian.
Yeah, of course.
Don't you think that that it would be interesting to be able to see how many emails were sent, failed, whatever, pertinent, not pertinent, to be able to track that. And why I'm talking about it is that because now in .NET 8 there is a matrix, counters. It's called matrix, but the class is counter feature that can be implemented to track all these stats. It's like logging, it's like tracing, but it's called matrix. It's a different way of seeing things. It's replacing .NET counters. It's a better .NET counter. And this way we could also integrate the counting in the email module. So we can have, and this way in .NET, you could then say, okay, we want to track how many emails are sent pertinent, okay? Even without your new module, which will limit it, it's different, just to be able to track it.
Yeah.
And it will be added to the logs as a structured log. And you could have alerts or in your telemetry settings or create charts out of it. And
that would be interesting.
Yeah. And that's good for emails and that's good for anything else, like content items creation, workflow runs, I don't know what, anything that we can count or measure, we could add metrics. And these are cheap because they are only incurring CPU and counting and logs and everything if someone is listening to one of these counters. That's how it has been designed. So maybe that's something to look into. I assume some of you have seen the project called Aspire that was showed last week or 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I didn't see that.
And it shows how to easily create distributed apps. And one thing that ships with the framework is the dashboard that shows all the metrics, all the logging, all the tracing for a .NET app. And just to show that when some library, like a module, implements those metrics, then you can have dashboard that shows all these metrics automatically from an app. We just need to have libraries that implement those metrics. So maybe something to look into.
Sure. All right. Okay.
Thank you, Christian.
Yeah, one thing to add there, just for our use case, why we didn't need any kind of metrics like this. By the way, very cool idea. I will open an issue about it. But why we didn't need such overarching metrics like how many emails have all the tenants sent, because dues and delivery success rates and pretty much everything else when it comes to statistics for emails is tracked by the SMTP provider.
Yeah, so I was just taking this an example because it made me think about it. And yeah. And if we had that, we could even have modules that would use those metrics to render them in the dashboard or some custom. That would be super useful. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I hope Lombiq will look at that because that will be super useful to be able to track anything that's happening in Orchard from metrics and then create dashboard widgets that show these metrics. That would be great. Cool. Next, is it that's on time?
Yeah, I can do my demo. Let me see when you let me know when you see my screen. Or well, you should see it now. And what I would like to show you is security scanning. So of course, security is important. You don't want your web app to be used for spamming or cryptocurrency mining, or you don't want your users' data to be lost or get into hands of others. So you want to secure your application. And now there are many layers to that, and many layers to enforcing or ensuring that your application is secure, including manual reviews and static code analysis. And another layer is penetration testing. So somebody going to your application and trying to, well, break it in some way, crack it, they get into it in a way that they shouldn't be able to. And pen testers use some tools. And one of the most widely used tools is this Z-attack proxy, or ZAP for short. This is an open source project and a very popular one. I think it has something like 10,000 stars on GitHub. 11 and a half, so roughly 2 times as much as OC.Core has, which is already a very popular project. And ZAP is pretty much a security scanner. It can check your application for security issues. Now, this is a Java application, and it checks web apps for general web application security issues. So it won't know about OC.Core, and for example, won't know about OC.Core's roles and role-based access control to attack specifically that. But it can do generally dangerous attacks. It can do that actively and passively. So let me actually show you how you would work with that, and then we'll go into how to automate such scans. So I have a blog running here. Let's see how we can attack this with ZAP. So I will copy this URL here and open the desktop app of ZAP. This is what's generally recommended to be used, especially if you start with ZAP. And what it provides you as well with a dashboard to run such scans. Actually, there is another way. I think that's manual explore would be would configure ZAP to act as a proxy, because apart from ZAP attacking your application and crawling through it and trying to find security issues, there's also an option to use ZAP as a proxy while you manually go through your application, or well, while some other automation goes through your application. We won't do that. Instead, we will let ZAP do its thing alone. And now we could use automated scan, and this would be pretty simple. But well, we are engineers, so we don't do it because it's easy. We do it because we can make it hard. So let's actually do that. And a much cooler feature of ZAP is this automation. They call it automation framework. And this quick automated scan here is a simple way to create a scan, but it's very limited in all ways. But the automation framework is pretty much how you script the ZAP. This way you can create automation framework plans, which will be YAML files in the end, and tell ZAP what to do. You can create a new automation framework plan here, and we can start from a so-called profile, which is basically a kind of a preset. And we can do something like a baseline scan. A baseline scan all has a spider job that will crawl through the application, find every page it can. It also has an Ajax spider that will try to do the same thing for SPAs. And then it has a passive scan. A passive scan is that it will just process the requests and show you if there are any security issues, like HTTPS not being used, or cookies not being not having the secure flag. A bit more would be to also use an active scan that's not selected here. An active scan would actually try to actively attack the application, trying cross-site scripting forgery, cross-site cross-site scripting, trying cross-site request forgery, trying all kinds of abusive inputs on forms, in requests, and everywhere else. But that takes actually a lot more time. So let's try with the baseline. Let's start with the baseline first. And now we have a plan here. These lines here are the different jobs they call. And we can tell Zap here in the default context to start with our URL. And then two other things I will change. I will remove the Ajax spider because that's also slow, and our site is just a simple site. It's not a single page application. And secondly, just to make it more fun, I will instruct it to display its scan report right at the end. And now let's run it and let's see what happens. That was it pretty much. And here we have our report. And this is how it looks like by default for a vanilla version core. And we have a couple of alerts here. Luckily, no high risk security issues in Version. Only a couple of medium and low ones, as you can see here. And we can actually scroll down and see the exact issues. And we'll see that these are not huge problems, and they are really configuration issues. And configuration issues like strict transport security header not set, they are here because I'm running the site locally. You don't use strict transport security locally, of course. Or CSP headers are missing. Yeah, they are missing because we haven't configured the security module for that. So Zap can find simple things like this and a lot more complicated things too. Now, this is good and all, but what if we want to run this automatically and not manually from the Zap desktop app like I just did? And in our UI testing toolbox, we now have a feature for that. And the feature request for this was actually, I think, asked by you, Sebastian, during one of my former demos, like last year. But then I went here and opened the issue for it. And quite recently, we discovered Zap and that you can automate it. So now this is now done. And as part of a UI test suite of your application, you can execute security tests or security scans as well. We have some quite detailed documentation about this, or sufficiently detailed documentation here. But what's more important, we also have some samples. These specifically. This is a test class here. As you can see, it's a standard XUnit test class that has some 3 sample tests here. And this is how you would start. From a UI test, you would call this method that runs the baseline scan that I just showed you, and asserts on the results. Because while Zap is a Java application running as a desktop application, you can also run it via the CLI in Docker, but that's still not really convenient. What we allow you to do here is run it with a .NET API. And this is a simple one, a simple scan, but you can actually utilize the .NET API more if you add some more configuration, as you can see here. So this scan here adds some configuration. For example, this, by the way, also runs on the same site with the blog recipe, set up with the blog recipe. And for example, you can exclude URLs from the scan. Here I exclude basically everything apart from the home page and the /about page. Because by excluding URLs, you can exclude repeated pages or pages that you otherwise somehow don't care about to make the scan faster. And you can also disable rules. You can disable rules for just a given URL. You can also authenticate. And we are talking about testing, so you can also assert on the results. And the results are actually available not just in a human readable HTML report like what I've shown you, but also as a JSON serif log, which is a standard way of sharing such scan results. And that's also available in .NET. So you can actually explore from an assertion, and you can explore this object where all the alerts are available in this result, and well, assert whether the test results is what you expected. And now we can actually run this. Or this test would pass, and this test, as it is originally in the sample, would also pass. But now I made it fail by changing this assertion here. So let me run this here, and let's see what happens. Such tests, well, UI tests are much slower than unit tests to begin with, obviously. Security scans are also relatively slow, or I would say slow because slow compared to what, but they take some time. Usually, such a scan, a passive scan, takes a couple dozen seconds for a simpler site, while it crawls through the whole site and does the checks. And this is just a baseline scan with a passive scan. But if you also turn on the active scan, then it can be a lot more, minutes even. Well, this was 30 seconds, not too bad. And what happened here is, we now have a test output with everything that we don't care about right now. But in the test output, we also see that, this is where Zap started behind the scenes. And it set itself up. You see, again, we have passive scan here. That's the same passive scan I've shown you. And eventually, it created the report. And, well, the test failed on our assertion because, well, it found 33 alerts instead of 3, what I added there. And the results are available in what we call a failure dump, which is a dump of this test. And this is something that, for example, would be available as an artifact in a CI system. And yeah, I can't open it because it's still 1960. Well, not that, but this is due to some long pass issues of Windows. So let me copy this over to just the downloads folder. Let me copy it over to the downloads folder. Okay, now it's happened. And let's try to open this. And here we have our report. This has actually a little bit different design than what I originally showed you, because that was the default design. This is a customized one. And yeah, but here we can still see same kind of results. CSP header not set. We have fewer alerts here because remember that I excluded the block from this scan. And here you can also figure out what exactly the issue was. It's quite a detailed report. You can work through that. So pretty much this is it. This way you can add automatic security scanning to your UI test suite. These scans can then run automatically on pretty much every push for every pull request. If you introduce a regression, it will trip. You can configure these scans completely. So whatever you can configure in Zap, you can also configure for these scans. And generally, you can use the full power of Zap. I actually opened an issue about running such scans for OC.Core itself too. So if you agree, or if you like to see this as well, please chime in here.
Thank you. I'm more impressed by the number of comments you put in your code than the feature.
This is actually this is a sample here. It explains you everything, so that's why there are so many comments. This is not usual.
Honestly, when I see the tutorials and everything, I'm like, I would not like to work for you because you force me to write so many docs everywhere and comments everywhere. I will spend my time on that. It's crazy. It's a good thing, but oh boy.
I hope only when necessary.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Nice demo.
Thank you.
So, Ultra is safe? Secure?
Mostly it is.
We need to enable the what's the feature we have? Security feature or something?
Yeah, that would actually cover most of these. The other alerts mostly are trivial. It actually found one more serious one. I already opened an issue about it, which is not like a security issue per se, but you can force an HTTP 500 error on the login page with some malicious input, and we have actually see that happening all the time in production too. So
Okay.
that was an important one.
I won't share my screen back. I have a meeting right now, so I need to leave. Mike, will talk about it, your other demo next week. I will be there on Thursday. I checked my meeting. I will be there. What else? I found the conference I was talking about earlier, Dev Intersection. So devintersection.com. And I believe Scott and Salman is showing how to build OC.Core on his machine, which is a big machine, but he's showing that it's faster. So it has lots of projects. So lots of teams in Microsoft are using OC.Core to perf test their own system, like Visual Studio, MS Build, NuGet. All these teams, they use OC.Core as a test bench, best bench test. And so Hanselman will show that using the dev disks, which is a new feature in Windows 11, that uses a file system that is faster for coding, how it's improving the build of Orchard, and then a new project by like, I don't know how many %, but very significant. I don't remember exactly. So that's why we fixed that, so they can do a .NET build without problems, without specifying a custom framework, for instance. That's it.
That would be great, by the way, because if you build an OC.Core solution, for example, under Linux, which is the X4 file system, reads NTFS under Windows, the build time will be something like half without doing anything special.
So you think it's because of the file system, or because it's not just the builds that are faster on Linux, even startup time, benchmarks in general for file system. So there might be some driver, but maybe also Windows Defender that is kicking in, because Windows Defender will always work even if you have an exclusion, so it will impact the perf.
Perhaps we try to exclude everything that we could think about. But
we know that it's faster on Linux at least. Yeah. And I have systems for benchmarking that are exactly the same physically, but have Windows and Linux, and that's how I measure the differences. Okay, I have to go. I'm already late. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
On Thursday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Lombiq.
Thank you.